Next, install the Sacrificial UV on the Leech, and we'll also install the protective tape on the Leech edge, including the Leech line. Since installing the Leech Sacrificial fabric is the same as the foot fabric, we're not going to show it in the video. Where the Leech intersects the foot Sacrificial, you can see we've overlapped it by about a ½ inch. Here we are at the head of the sail, and we'll show that section because we want to show how we intersect it with that continuous support tape along the luff. Deb will take her pencil and strike a line along the inner continuous support tape line so that that yardstick is placed or butted right up against that inner rope. Places a line, then she'll fold it back to indicate where the continuous support tape stops at the head. She'll place a line across there as well. This line here would obviously be ignored. Here's the extreme head of the sail. Now we'll cut it out. I think you can see how this is taking shape. We'll put that on, and this will wrap right around the head. So we'll cut off this excess fabric here as well. We'll leave a little bit of extra, but that way we don't have to worry about gluing all that extra fabric. Now we'll take it over and apply the glue, just as we did previously, on all those other strips. Take it over to the sail, position it into place, and then we'll show you the corner. Alright, here you can see where we cut that fabric so that the edge of the Sacrificial runs alongside the edge of the inner rope of the continuous support tape. And here we are at the head. We just simply wrap it around, and then we'll cut off the excess. And that's all there is to it. Now we take it over to the sewing machine and sew it down just as we did previously with the foot Sacrificial fabric.
Stitch across there and then come right down off the end.
The sail's been positioned by our sewing machine. We're using the Sailrite Ultra Feed again, and we'll sew a zigzag stitch along that edge that's right up against the continuous support tape first. You can see when Deb gets to the wider part of the fabric that she folds the fabric sort of in half. Not that she creates a crease, but she folds it so she can get it underneath the throat of the sewing machine. Take note, she buries the needle, pivots the fabric, and adjusts the fabric. By burying the needle like this, you can prevent needle deflection issues. That's one of the complaints we get when sewing Sacrificial covers. Usually customers will only have the needle slightly buried. They'll rearrange the sail, and then when they press on the gas, bam, it hits metal. You need to make sure that you bury your needle and then make adjustments to the sail. Otherwise, the needle will go in at an angle and possibly hit some metal in the sewing machine. Now, we're not going to show it, but we'll sew down this length. We'll sew along the short ends of each one of these Sacrificial strips. We'll sew diagonally, and then we're going to install the dacron tape next. We've installed the dacron tape along the leech of the sail all the way down here to the clew, and we create a simple ½ hem here because this is a raw edge of the dacron tape. We want that to be folded over to create a ½ hem. We're going to sew that ½ hem in the sewing machine just to keep it nice and secure. So she's already got the dacron tape basted to the leech of the sail, as we've done earlier with the foot. Now along the leech of this sail we're going to install a leech line, so that's what we're going to work on next. Deb's taking the leech line and inserting it in the sleeve of this dacron tape as she bastes it to the sail. So the one side has been basted down, and as she bastes the other side of the tape, she'll insert the leech line. As we work up to the head of this sail, we'll have to secure the leech line here. We'll sew over it with a few zigzag stitches, and we'll create a little loop here that's approximately 4 to 6 inches long. Deb's going to secure that loop in place with excess double-sided tape, just to keep it from moving on her while she sews it with the sewing machine. Once that loop is secured, she'll finish folding the dacron tape over the top. Trim off the excess tape hanging over the edge. Now we're going to sew that leech line in place. Now this is a lot of thick fabric. You've got to consider that you have all that patch assembly, and you also are sewing over the leech line. So if your sewing machine balks at this, you may want to just go in forward and then move the fabric back and go forward again over the top of it instead of using the reverse lever. Obviously machines don't like to go in reverse, especially through multiple thicknesses of fabric and also leech line. Once the leech line's secured, then we'll just sew down all the length of the dacron tape along the leech. Make sure you don't sew through the leech line while you do this. Here we are down at the clue.
Okay, and then I laid an extra piece in here too to cover up the edge of the sail, and then I put this over top of it.
She'll continue sewing all the way down the length. So here we are, finishing up that dacron tape. She does a little bit of reversing here, and then continues to sew all the way down to the clue corner.
So here's where we folded it over and cut it off.
I cannot stress enough the power of the UltraFeed LSZ-1 sewing machine in sewing through these multiple layers of dacron patch assemblies. Here's the underside. Alright, we need to install the cleat now. She's already marked the spot. It's a few inches down from the opening.
You're opening to the outside.
If you don't have a hole punch for this, you could use a nail or an awl. It's definitely more cumbersome and more difficult, but it can be done. So here's an awl, and we just use a hammer and poke it through the sail, being sure that we're using some material on the backside that's not going to cause anybody to have a heart attack when you put a hole through the table. Now here it is when we're using a hole punch. This is the way we do it in the loft because it's quick. If you don't have it, you could use an awl or a nail, as we discussed previously. Then we'll install the rivets through the back plate of this cleat assembly. Install the back plate to the back side through the holes we punched into the dacron sailcloth material. Then install this cleat, being careful with the openings to the outside. Now we'll use a punch to roll the rivet over. Just give it a few blows with the hammer. Won't take much because these rivets are usually aluminum, so they roll quite nicely and quickly. Then Deb takes the other side of the punch and kind of flattens the rivet out.
Sharp edges to catch on.
Then simply feed your leech line through the cleat.
Through there. Ready to go.